town clerks were active members of political parties and they did not relinquish their posts. If you carry out a survey, you will find out that this is true. Now, Local Government Rural Development National Housing Minister Xavier Kasukuwere last week effectively disqualified Dr. Mashagada's candidacy. He indicated that it was against both the Constitution and the common sense for a career politician to take an administrative post. Without referring to Dr. Mashagada by name, Minister Kasukuwere said that politicians aspired for the top job, had to resign from political parties and relinquish their parliamentary seats. The minister was speaking while addressing delegates at a joint meeting of provincial and district administrators, chief executives, town clerks and secretaries in Harare. Now, the Constitution says you cannot hire politicians to become administrators of local authorities. According to Minister Kasukuwere, the position of Harare Town Clerk fell vacant following the retirement of Dr. Tendai Mahachi and the termination of former banker Mr. James Mushore's contract after government rescinded his appointment. So look at a few more locally trending stories. Two policemen allegedly obtained a fake search warrant which they used to gain access into a Harare businessman's house where they stole gold worth $262,000 that was stashed in the ceiling. $10,000 in cash and $11,000 worth of bond notes. Now, it is alleged that Innocent Mureri Moyo, 36 years old, and Melody Musengezi, 40, attached the commercial crimes unit, committed the offense in connivance with 3 civilians. Blessmo Sibanda, 28 years old, Jessica Maria Authors, and Stephen Morally Han. Now, the alleged accomplice, only identified as Chidemo, was still at large. Authors, who once worked for the complainant, is alleged to have supplied information to the gang on how and where the complainant kept his money and valuables. She informed her boyfriend Han, who then relayed the information to his friend Sibanda, who roped in Moyo and Musengezi. Now, it is the state's case that after the robbery, part of the gold was sold on the black market for $86,500. According to the state, Sibanda took a selfie while inside the complainant's house during the robbery and posted it on Facebook. Authors and Han appeared in court on Saturday and were remanded in custody to yesterday for bail rulings. Now, they were released on a $500 bail each by Magistrate Miss Josephine Sande. Moyo, Msengezi and Sibanda appeared before the same magistrate yesterday and were granted $100 bail each, coupled with stringent conditions. They are being represented by Messrs. Admaya Rubaya and Stephen Chokotora. They will be back in court on November the 9th, prosecuting Mr. Sebastian Mtizi, who alleged that after Sibanda roped in Moyo and Msengezi into the scheme to rob the businessman, the duo fraudulently applied for a search warrant using a false reference number at the Harare Magistrates Court. Now, acting on information supplied by authors Sibanda, Moyo, Msengezi and Chidemo, they proceeded to the complaint's house at 501 Biston Road in Borrowdale, Harare on October the 7th. Upon arrival, they saw the complaint's son, Dylan Wiggle, and demanded to search the house, but Wiggle became suspicious and refused to let them in. One of the gang then assaulted him and threatened to shoot him, the state alleged. They allegedly ransacked the house and stole $9,980, $11,000 worth of bond notes, and 4,781 grams of gold. It's about 4.7 kilograms. Now, after the robbery, the gang, the court heard, went to Author's house and left the gold in her custody before collecting it later on the same day. They proceeded to Bulawayo, where Han and Sibanda reside. It is further alleged that they handed over the gold to Han, who later sold it on the black market. Upon arrest, Sibanda was allegedly found in possession of $18,500, which was part of the money realized after selling the gold, while Han was in possession of 66,050 grams of gold. A final trending story: a 25-year-old man from Chichacha village in Seke was fined $30 as he was convicted of possessing .002 grams of dacha when he had forcibly snatched it from an alleged drug peddler and refused to pay for it. The court heard that the suspected peddler was angered by the accused's refusal to pay for the sachet of dacha and proceeded to the police station where the reported case was heard. The police are also understood to have reacted swiftly. Zekias Matute Chibaduki pleaded guilty to the charges of unlawful possession or use of a dangerous drug when he appeared before Chintuguza magistrate Mrs. Iokai Chigodora. Those are the trending stories that we have here on the Capital Drive on Capi Talk 100.4 FM. Remember to also let us know your thoughts on 0717 777 That's 0717 777. Shortly, we'll be joined by Lennox Mhlanga and Mr. Michael Chideme in our business consultant segment. We'll be speaking to the public relations and communications, the corporate communications manager for the Harare City Council, Mr. Michael.
And is sometimes called
Axel Visual Radio.
Bird of God. The stone eagle became the country's emblem and symbol of freedom, known to us as bird. Learn more about our rich heritage on Harare's premium talk radio station, Capital 100.4 FM.
Axel Visual Radio.
The time is 2:30. Let's get into our business brief with Owen Kaura.
Business, the Capital Business Brief.
Thanks, Farai. Zimbabwe is targeting to halve its budget deficit to 4% of the country's gross domestic product, GDP, next year, with growth expected to slow to 3%, according to Treasury strategy documents. Now, forecasts of improved economic growth are on the back of recovery in commodity prices, in particular mining. And Zimbabwe's health insurers say the shortage of foreign currency in the country has resulted in the cost of drugs escalating by as much as 70%. The country has been battling a crippling shortage of banknotes, which has intensified over the last months. European markets are higher today, with shares in France leading the region. The CAC is up 0.54%, while Germany's DAX is up 0.47%, and London's FTSE 100 is also up 0.35%. Asian markets finished higher today, with shares in China leading the region. The Shanghai Composite is up 0.29%, while Japan's Nikkei 225 is also up 0.13%, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng is up 0.05%. Currencies: $1 will buy you 0.85 euro, 0.76 pounds, 1.27 Australian dollars, and 1.25 Canadian dollars, as well as 13.53 rand. Commodities: Brent crude oil at $58.11, gold at $1,280.22, and platinum at $925.50. That's it for the business brief this half hour. Back in the next with more business.
City Library. The Harare City Library has been in existence for well over 100 years, under different names and in different places. The origins of the library can be traced to a reading and recreation society that started a collection of books and newspapers in the early years of colonization. The original library was housed in the Queen Victoria Memorial Building, opened in the then Moffat Street, now Leopold Takawira Street, in 1903. However, the building was apparently not well suited to function as a library and was demolished to make way for a new school hall at the girls' high school next door. Salisbury City Council developed a new civic centre, and its first building was the Harare City Library, opened in 1962 as the Queen Victoria Memorial Library. The library you see now was renovated thanks to joint efforts by the Library Committee, Culture Fund, and the Swedish Embassy in 2014. Learn more about this and other buildings of architectural importance to the city of Harare by tuning to the Harare's Hub of Education, Zimbabwe's first and only commercial talk radio station, Capital 100.4 FM, leading the conversation. We live in a dynamic world, a smart world of digital intelligence. In this environment, you can't afford to be one step behind. Stay in tune with the conversations that concern you. Get all the options today. 1. Download the Capitalk FM mobile app. 2. Bookmark the website capitalkfm.com. 3. Follow the conversation on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Capitalk FM. And if you miss a crucial conversation, catch the podcast on capitalkfm.com. Capitalk 100.4 FM, leading the conversation.
Welcome to the Capital Drive on Capital 100.4 FM, leading the conversation. Get your business on the right track. Tune into Capital Drive and listen to the business consultant on Capital 100.4 FM.
Once again, a very warm welcome to you if you've just joined us here on the Capital Drive on Capital 100.4 FM, Zimbabwe's first and only commercial talk radio station, leading the conversation. It is our business consultant segment every single weekday between Monday and Thursday from 2:30 to 3 p.m. We touch on areas of business-related issues. And joining me in studio today, as per usual, is Mr. Lennox Mhlanga for our public relations aspects of our business-related news. And joining us in studio today, we've got a very special guest who's managed to put himself on the hot seat, Mr. Michael Chidemo, who's the Corporate Communications Manager for the Harare City Council.
Hi, Farah. How are you doing?
Excellent stuff. Great to you know. You know what? We speak to Mr. Chideme every single Thursday,
Yeah.
and every other time also during other shows. But this is a very special show today.
Exactly.
Because we get to speak to the man behind.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, we always talk about the job, but never about the person behind. How did he get there?
That's
and,
it.
You know, there's so many things that people love to find out, particularly with public relations practitioners, what makes them tick.
That's it.
And so on.
Yeah.
And why does he have the death wish of being a corporate communications manager?
Corporate communications manager is one thing. Corporate communications manager for the Harare City Council.
Not any other city.
My goodness. Panibasa.
Hi, Mike.
I'm good, Lennox.
It's
How are
good. Yeah, I mean, you're always behind the mic, and yeah, it's nice to chat to you again. You know, after such a while.
Yeah, thank you. I feel welcome here every week.
Yeah. What would love to do? I have a confession to make. It's not a confession, more like what one would call, a confession. I used to hold a similar job to yours in the city of Bulawayo, and someone actually walked to me and said, "Lennox, are you really serious? This is the most dangerous job in the city." Now, can you tell us what really motivated you to be able to take up this challenge of becoming corporate communications manager of the city of Harare?
Okay. I was a municipal reporter for Zim Papers for about 11 years or so. So during that stint with the Herald, some key persons within Harare City Council used to talk to me about having a career in public relations with the city, but nothing ever materialized. But we had discussions around me joining them. Maybe they were seeing the articles that I was writing about the council and the in-depth articles. And in particular, I think it was the late Mr. Chidea and Mr. Muchadema Sunda. He would say, "Oh, Mike, I think one day you'll have a career within the city or within the local government sector." And I never took them seriously because there was no opportunity for me to join council. But then, once such things are said to you, they begin to revolve, they begin to run in you, and you begin to feel it.
Yeah.
So I think that's how the idea came about, that maybe if an opportunity arises, I would be glad to join the city. But then a colleague of mine from Nigeria, Samuel Ajibola, was working for WHO. Then he used to say to me, "Mike, you can't be in the newsroom forever. You need to move." So I said, "What do I do?" He said, "No, you need to up your education." Right. So I took his advice. I did after poly. I did a diploma. Then after poly, I did a BA in media studies. But then he said, "Oh, Mike, you're joking. This is not enough." Right. So we'll just talk about it. And at one time, I was about to go and do a degree program, a master's degree program at Princeton. But then I just said, "No, I will not go there." But everything was set. I was almost going, but I didn't go. Then I enrolled at MSU for a master's in international affairs, and I completed my program. But when I was doing that program, I also enrolled for the diploma in public relations with ZIPR, and that's when I really began to enjoy public relations, because I could see the marriage between PR and the communications that I was doing, the journalism aspect. So I got so interested, and I began to do some part-time PR jobs for companies then, when I was still with Zim Papers. And the jobs, they came out nicely, and I really felt I needed to move now, because I thought I was able to do the bit in PR. So I would do magazines, newsletters, and sometimes plan activities behind the scenes. So I thought, no, the time was right. Then, fortunately, there was an advert in the press about a position at Harare City Council, and I applied. I went for the interviews. I was sweating.
And they say the rest is history.
Yeah,
In actual fact, you confirmed two issues that we discussed with Farai and past programs. One is the link between journalism and public relations. How does a career in journalism add to the one in PR? How is it an advantage?
Okay, journalism. When you're a journalist, I would equate a journalist to a person in the army. You're not afraid. You maybe at first you're afraid, but as you grow in the field, you're not afraid. You ask very painful questions sometimes, right? And you go and put that on paper, and the next day it's published. And sometimes, so it gives you the courage to do things that the other person would say, I would not dare do it. Yeah. So that aspect of journalism, I think it has helped me a lot. And also knowing what journalists want.
Exactly.
Right. The relationship. Because the thing that I was complaining about when I was in journalism about PR officers, right? I try as much as possible so that my colleagues don't complain about me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for the past 2 days, I've had some missed calls. And I'm very worried. Because these guys will say this guy does not want to.
Is now unavailable because it's a hot situation that is in right now.
Yeah. So I just feel when journalists come to you asking for information, give it. Right. There's no better way of defending an organization, or not even defending, or of saying out your story, other than talking it yourself.
Yes.
Because if you don't give them the response, they already have a response from someone, because they come to ask you because somebody has given them information. So if you deny them your side of the story, you are confirming the wrong information or the correct information that they already have with them. And that will not stop them from writing a story about your organization. Right? So they will simply say, we spoke to him and he said, I cannot talk now. Right? And I cannot talk now is confirmation probably that what they have already is correct. Or probably you are afraid to confirm or dismiss what they have.
If you're joining us now, this is Capital 100.4 FM, leading the conversation, and the program is Meet the Consultant, and we're with Michael Chideme, who is the Corporate Communications Manager of the City of Harare. He's giving us gems there. If you are a PR practitioner or someone who is who's working towards that, that's critical. Yes. The other aspect that you brought up was the one on education. How important does one need to be trained in public relations for them to be effective? You've told us how much you have actually gone on to masters and then had a qualification in public relations. How important is that?
No, it's very important, because there are aspects of the aspects in journalism that you will never get to know if you haven't trained public relations, and vice versa. If you train in public relations, the aspects of journalism that you never know, right? So the marriage of the two, I think it brings the best out of an individual.
Yeah, which is very important. Now, the other aspect which people would want to know, apart from the fact that your job is in the hot seat, right? How do you get yourself motivated every single day when you know that when you get into the office, you get a flood of phone calls, mainly made up of complaints or about issues which the city is facing, which practically people have no access to except through your office?
I think at one time, one of my former bosses, if I still remember well, I think it was Deketeke, who used to tell me, you are as good as your last story. That was then when I was in the newsroom. So you are as good as your last interview or as your last discussion in terms of projecting the image of your organization. So if you keep quiet, for example, right now we have the campaign against illegal vending. So people are writing stories, and if you keep quiet about the issues that they are raising, then it means you are not there you are not serving any purpose. But if you are always coming out explaining to people where they should go, what they should do, what you are not doing or what you are doing, I mean, availability is what matters most in public relations. You have to be available, you have to be visible. Yeah, you don't have to work behind the scenes. Because I think there's a colleague who at one time came to me and said, "Oh, you guys, I think you are missing the point. You should be behind the scenes and then allow the town clerk, whoever, to go and say things out for you." But then I said, no. When I was hired specifically for doing what I'm doing. If things have changed, I'll be alerted and I'll go behind the scenes. So I don't believe in going behind the scenes. Yeah, I believe in being in the front, leading from the front, but always consulting with my bosses, because what I say is not my personal feelings, but the organization's policy.
In actual fact, you've taken me to the next question on the level of autonomy and also the reporting, because a lot of public relations practitioners have a dilemma where they don't report to the top guy. They don't actually have that power to be able to represent the organization. How important is the level of autonomy of you making decisions on the seat of your pants, on the spot, without having to consult anyone?
Okay. The advantage with council is council business is done in committees, right? So I attend every single committee of council and get to know the issues as they arise. So I'm well informed of what is happening, right? But after that, when questions arise, when issues arise, I'm also very particular with the press. When issues arise, I make sure I consult with the town clerk or with the respective director, so that they give me more information on the subjects at hand. Right. So you marry what you have received from the town clerk, from the director, with what you have received from the committees. Because in the committees is the councillors who sit in there, right? And if there's another issue, probably I have direct access to the town clerk, to the mayor. I can go and knock on the mayor's office and say, His Worship, there's this issue. You have said A, B, C, D, but I am going to say A, B, C, D, right? And I've never been told not to go ahead and defend the council position. So I think it all comes down to the support that you also get from your superiors. If your superiors understand the role of information, then you are very, very safe. But if they think giving out information is giving out secrets, then you are in trouble.
Yeah, well, that's a very good way of putting it. Another aspect is comparison between working for a local authority and an ordinary company, let's say commercial company. What differences can you bring out of those, and how does one tackle them?
Okay, I think you need to also convince your superiors that you know your bit, right? They need to be confident with you. Lennox, it's pointless for radio to call me and then I'll say, please, can you phone me after 30 minutes? I want to go and talk to the town clerk. No. You must have information on the tips of your fingers, right? But once you communicate, it's always nice so that you don't shock your boss at the 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock news, right? You need to also, after you've done your interviews, you need to inform them that, we have had an interview with ZBC, with Capital, with Star FM, with whoever, and the issues raised were A, B, C, D, and I said, I said A, B, C, D, right? And if they feel you didn't say much, they'll give you more information and say, okay, I'll have a next interview with another station and I'll give them that other information, right? So, but there is need for good communication between the PR person and management. Yeah.
And latching on to that, so there are people who actually say that the issue of when you look at getting the information right, for instance, defending the indefensible. right? They say PR people normally find themselves in a spot where they would even defend those things that are indefensible. How do you say that?
All right, okay. There is an organization's position, right? So what you stand by is the position of the organization. If the position changes, you also change and adopt the new position, because it's not cast in, most positions are not cast in stone, right? So there's need for flexibility, right? And you need to find best ways of saying the different thing without necessarily probably accepting we were wrong.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Let's take this opportunity to have a short break. It's Capi Talk 100.4 FM leading the conversation. If you want to join in the conversation, Farai will give you the numbers after this short break.
What is talk radio? Talk radio is you. Think about it. My job is to encourage you to think, then persuade you to speak to me. Then take what you say, analyze it, figure out what you desire, then talk about it on radio, so that you are keen to listen. And I further encourage you to think, then persuade you to speak about it. Then I take what you say, analyze it, figure out what you desire, and the cycle goes from strength to strength. As long as you are there, we've got talk radio. Capi Talk 100.4 FM. You set the agenda, we lead the conversation.
What are the most pertinent issues of concern to you? What is it that keeps you up at night? Is it unemployment? Or maybe you're employed but are not being paid? Could this be considered a form of modern-day slavery? Or maybe it's your health that concerns you the most? Do you have faith in our health services in Zimbabwe? Let's say your biggest concern is the welfare and education of your children. But does your child have enough mental stamina to resist when drugs, sex, and alcohol become synonymous with institutions of education? Is your voice being heard? Do you even have a voice? It's your time now. Capital 100.4 FM, leading the conversation. Get your business on the right track. Tune into Capital Drive and listen to the business consultant on Capital 100.4 FM.
Yes, did you tune into the business consultant here on the Capital Drive on Capi Talk 100.4 FM, Zimbabwe's first and only commercial talk radio station. Feel free to also interact with us during the course of the show on 0717 777. That's 0717 777. Now, earlier on, before the break, Mr. Mhlanga was speaking to Mr. Chideme around the role of public relations, but most notably appropriating it to the Harare City Council. Now, earlier on, you may or may not have appreciated also that a comment that Mr. Chideme gave around not being able to be contacted comes up. And it's very common. Like most of the time when Mr. Chideme is here in studio and we're speaking to him, you'd see the light of the phone flickering and flickering and flickering. But he can't respond wherever it is because Haripabas.
Yes, I mean, one has to appreciate the fact that it's not every day that he's on the phone. And, there are certain situations that public relations practitioners actually find themselves in, and that's why you are here, just to give us the lowdown and what happens on the job. Yes. Just give us an idea of your day from 8 to 5.
Right. I've since decided that I don't work on appointments. Was appointments I'll never be able to.
You'll break everyone.
I'll break everybody's heart. So
are we lucky that you came to this program?
No, that's why last weekend. That's why last week I couldn't even come. Yeah, but I've said to people that I work with, especially the press, just call me and hear where I am. Right. If you can come where I am, please, you will come. If I can come where you are, I'll come there. Or more easily, let's work on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Right. And for those who need voice, I can just do them voice on WhatsApp as well for radio. I can give them voice on WhatsApp wherever I am.
Thank God for new technology.
Yes. So